What's up, guys? There is this article I'm reading right now. I just finished. It's really interesting. I'll tag it below and I'll put it, maybe a link for it. If I can get a link for it, it's through one of my classes. I'll put that, down below as well. But basically, it's an article on Uber, and what it talks about is how Uber uses psychological tricks to get their drivers to work more. And the way the app is set up, it's like a video game. So experts in video games know how to make things like games addictive, and they try to do this in order to get Uber drivers to work more. Now, this article is from 2017, so I don't know how much it's changed since then, but basically they try to get workers to work longer. So they have them in an auto, your next drive is coming up, please accept, and you can't turn that off. So even when they're in a ride and they're finishing up a ride, a new ride is suggested to them. It became a problem. So because people were saying, I got to go to the bathroom, and I have all these auto rides coming up. So that the Uber people actually put a pause button on it, but you can't turn off that default. That's always the case. They compare this to Netflix, where Netflix has it plays the next episode as the other one is finishing up, as the credits come up, and that sort of behavior promotes binge watching in Netflix. And some people will say, well, for the drivers, this is great, so because I always have work. And the people who are binge watching, Netflix, they say, well, it's great because it's moving to the next episode. That's great, I can watch it. But the concern here is not about whether you like it or not. It has to do with how much control do you actually have, and how much are these little things that they put in, these little psychological tricks, actually affecting us without necessarily having us be aware of that. Another issue with this program is that it doesn't tell the Uber drivers the fare or the destination of the ride that they're opting into until later. I've gotten calls from Uber drivers apologizing to me, saying that although they accepted the ride, that they can't take me because they're heading in a different direction than wherever I'm going. And I was always confused why they didn't know that, but now that makes sense to me, because they head to these destinations and they accept these rides before they're given that information. So this is a problem in that respect. Another issue with Uber is that they are independent contractors, and they set this up intentionally. So the people of Uber don't have as many responsibilities to the drivers as they would if they were actually working for the company as employees. They're working for the company, but as independent contractors. So basically, the difference is they don't have to pay them all these certain benefits. The people who work for Uber don't get protected the same way that normal employees would. And I think they said here in this article that they actually are saving something like 20 or 25% by doing that. Another scary thing is that because they're independent contractors, they don't have to use the same laws in terms of the certain psychological tricks that they're using on these independent contractors. There's laws that protect normal employees from taking advantage of this. So this manipulation, but because they're independent contractors, they don't fall under that same protection. So Uber is allowed to do this. So again, that's pretty creepy. Also with Netflix, you can turn off that default. With Uber, you can't turn off that default. So with Netflix, you can set it so it doesn't show the next program. With Uber, it's no matter what, you can put on pause. You can pause the app, but when you unpause and you continue driving, it's always going to suggest a new driver. Again, I don't know how much this has changed since think 2017, when this article was created. So a lot of these digital platforms will use these default tricks to get people to do what they want to do. Much like retirement plans, the government has these retirement plans. They know that more people will opt in if the default is they're automatically signed up. So then people actually have to consciously choose to opt out of these programs. So, like the Netflix, you automatically are given this sort of technology that brings you to the next whatever you're watching. But if you're aware of that, you can choose to opt out. Is this that big of a deal with Netflix? I don't know. But what I'm saying is this technology is put in because they know that they're going to be able to get people to do more of what they want. Another thing Uber does is it tries to pay people without actually paying them. It tries to find ways that they can make the drivers, to give the drivers incentive and to make them feel accomplished without actually paying them. So this idea of stickers and badges, those sort of things, the driver of the day or best service, nice ride, great music, those sort of badges actually stimulate the drivers, and it makes them feel accomplished even though that's not actual money that they're getting. With driving, in terms of how they get people to drive more, two more things that they do is one, they set up an app that would suggest that certain places, if you go to certain places, that there's some sort of a surge or that you get more money. And as many drivers are figuring out that this isn't necessarily the case, it might be just the same, or in some cases even worse. But the app is driving, this extra additional app you can get is sending people over to these areas. So many drivers believe the agenda is just to get drivers to those areas so the company can get more money from their work. It's not necessarily in the benefit of the drivers. Also, a lot of the time when Uber drivers want to sign out, there is something that pops up that says, well, you almost have made this much money, you're this close. And this can be included with different pictures, or I don't know how they do it, but they were saying like there's a video game aspect that makes it seem like you're really close to getting your goal. And that's that behavioral science. They're using that video game competitiveness to those competitive behaviors. They're playing with that to get people to work more. And in these cases, all these numbers are generally arbitrary. It's just the desire for people to work more. So the increase of the digital platform, as we continue to progress as society, there's things that I notice, and there's things that they talk about in this article, is basically that sometimes the digital settings are not necessarily in your best interest. And in most cases, if you're aware of it, you can turn them off. In a lot of cases, the way they set up these platforms, it's not necessarily, sometimes the push the button, choose this option, the one that the company wants or whatever the advertisement, is much bigger than the, okay, I'm going to opt out, which can be in like the top left-hand corner, really tiny. In Dropbox, for example, I was on the Dropbox website and I didn't even realize it, but I don't know if you can see this. Here we go. They kind of they imply that, try for free 30 days or purchase now. But if you look harder, it says get to Dropbox Basic. Dropbox Basic is free, but if you're not paying attention, you might not notice that. So you might end up trying it free for 30 days thinking, oh, I really, did something great here. I got this 30-day free trial. When really this application, this service is free, so you don't have to. I mean, if you want to, you can. But I made this mistake the other day. I actually, here we go. I actually paid for a service that I could have done, a one service trial of, but the way that it was set up, it's for like the Ironman. It was like a marathon. I have to get a marathon certificate. in order to participate, and I ended up signing up for a year as opposed to a one-time deal, which it's only one race that I'm competing in, and it was based off of the fact that I wasn't paying attention to how the platform was set up. And again, they do this with Uber drivers. They, set up the platform in a way that can be confusing sometimes, or at least influence you to move in a certain direction or make certain choices. So Uber is involved in the gig economy, that's what they call it, and that is, by the definition of it, is a labor market characterized by the prevalence of short-term contracts or freelance work as opposed to permanent jobs. So this could be kind of a difficult place for a lot of businesses to be, because it's harder to get these independent contractors to work. But with the digital age, it's so easy to get people to do this part-time or full-time. A lot of people who don't have necessarily the skills that they could use in a like an official, not an official, but a traditional job. So they're taking advantage of people like this because they know that they're going to just do what we ask them to do. And in a lot of ways, they're playing with, again, these different, they're developing greater psychological tricks, and they're going to do this more to make people, work more for less pay. And there is this thing in the article where they say, okay, no, Uber is actually working to help people in the opposite direction, put them first above the business. But they were saying that research suggests that this isn't the case. They're actually going in the opposite direction. So David Weil, W-E-I-L, the top wage and hour official under President Obama. So this is old. But this guy, one of his older quotes was, you have all these players entering into the space, into the gig economy, and the assumption is they'll do it through vast armies of underemployed people looking for extra hours, and we can control every nuance about what they do, but not have to pay them. So basically, that's it. I mean, it's this idea that all these companies are going to start following Uber, like, Uber's making all this money doing this, like getting away with all of this, like, so independent contractors is the way to go. Where in the past it might have been harder with the digital age, it's so easy and convenient for people and the companies that once you get involved, you don't realize how this system is actually playing basically taking advantage of the workers. So anyway, cool beans, guys. Peace. Have a good one.